So, ladies and gentlemen, it is my great pleasure and honor to present the Committee to Protect Journalism's Burton Benjamin Memorial Award for Lifetime Achievement in Defending Press Freedoms to Jorge Ramos. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. Thanks. Gracias. Thank you very much. Thank you for this honor. Thanks all the members of the CPJ. Thanks to Randy Falco and exactly for allowing me just to report with complete freedom in 2 languages. That's priceless. Thanks to all my friends from Univision and Fusion, really my homes away from home. Thanks, Chiqui, for being with me in the most important moments of my life. I really love being a journalist. It's the only profession in the world in which your job description is to be rebellious and irreverent. In other words, journalism keeps you young, and I'm seeing a lot of young faces right here. As Colombian writer Gabriel García Márquez used to say, this is the best profession in the world, but I think we can and we should use journalism as a weapon for a higher purpose, for justice. I think the best of journalism happens when we take a stand, when we question those who are in power, when we confront the politicians who abuse their authority, when we denounce an injustice. The best of journalism happens when we side with the victims, with the most vulnerable, with those who have no rights. I think the best of journalism happens when we purposely stop pretending that we are neutral and recognize that we have a moral obligation to tell truth to power. Obviously, I believe in the basics of journalism. I have nothing against objectivity. Our profession is based on finding the facts, on reporting exactly what happened, on being obsessed with details. I know what it is. We should not get it wrong. If 5 people died, we have to say 5, not 6 or 7. We should get the name right, the quote right, the numbers right. Our credibility depends on that. I have nothing against being balanced. Of course, every story has at least 2 points of view, and we have to report both. This has to be like a reflex. If a Republican said something, I bet you a Democrat has a response, and vice versa. If a president proposes a new law, the opposition should have a say. This has to be second nature. But here's the problem. Sometimes to get all the facts and to present both points of view doesn't mean that we get the story right. When we deal with the powerful, I think we have to take a stand. Yes, we have to take an ethical decision and side with those who have no power. If we have to decide between being a friend or an enemy of the president, of the governor, of the dictator, it should be an easy choice. I'm a reporter. I don't want to be your friend. And trust me, you don't want to be my friend. When I'm doing an interview with someone important, I'm always assuming 2 things. First, that if I don't ask the tough questions, nobody else will. That's my job. And second, that most probably I will never, ever talk to that person again. So it helps. It really helps. Yeah, because it's a different attitude. You come with a different attitude. If you know you're not going to talk to that person again, it's going to be a different interview. You know what happens? Some of the worst interviews that I've seen happen when the reporter refuses to ask difficult questions just to maintain access to his sources. That's self-censorship. And of course, yes, right now, might be controversial, but right now, I'm arguing here for point-of-view journalism. It means being transparent. It means recognizing to our audience, to you, to our readers, that we have opinions and that we have a code of ethics. We don't live in a vacuum. All the time, we are taking and we are making moral choices before the interview, before the investigation, before the coverage. It is perfectly okay not to be neutral and to openly take a stand. We have many great examples of courageous journalists who decided to take a stand. Many of them were recognized tonight. But we have Edward R. Murrow, who confronted biased Senator Joe McCarthy. Walter Cronkite openly criticized the Vietnam War. The Washington Post reporters got rid of a corrupt president, President Nixon. Christiana Manpour, right here. She denounced President Clinton's flip-flop policies and made him accountable for what happened in Bosnia. You remember, we remember that moment. Anderson Cooper showed the incompetence of the Bush administration after Hurricane Katrina. So if they did it, I think I can do it. I think I can call Fidel Castro a dictator, even though I can't get a visa to go to Cuba anymore. Talking about Venezuela, I think we were right to report early this year that the Venezuelan government was behind the killings of dozens of students. We have to report that Leopoldo López is a political prisoner and he has to be freed. Obviously, President Nicolás Maduro doesn't want to talk to me, I think. And talking about Mexico, do you know that we have a White House? I think right now we are right to report that there is a huge conflict of interest in Mexico because, listen to this, it's incredible. A government contractor is financing the $7 million home of the president's wife. That's not saving Mexico, that's corruption. And can you imagine what would happen here in the United States if a government contractor would secretly finance the private home of Michelle Obama? Well, señor Peña Nieto, esto está pasando en México. Eso es corrupción. That is happening right now in Mexico. And believe it or not, there is not even one independent investigation on this matter. Because of the so-called White House in Mexico and the disappearance of 43 students, thousands of Mexicans want President Peña Nieto to resign. And we have to report that. No, Peña Nieto doesn't want to talk to me either. So now let me tell you something about that it's very personal. Let me tell you what it means to me to be a journalist and to be an immigrant. This is something that defines me. I came to this country, I came to the United States after they tried to censor me in Mexico. So this country really gave me the opportunities that my country of origin simply couldn't give me. And of course, when it comes to immigration, I take a stand. As an immigrant myself, many times I speak up for other immigrants who don't have a voice. That's why I told President Barack Obama, he didn't like it, but that's why I told him that he didn't keep his promise on immigration. And that's why I told Speaker John Boehner to his face that he blocked immigration reform in the House. I think I was just doing my job as a journalist. Part of my job, I believe, is to make visible the millions of immigrants who are invisible to the rest of America. I don't believe in being partisan, but I believe in taking a stand. As Nobel Prize winner Elie Wiesel once said, we must take sides. Neutrality helps the oppressor, never the victim. So in front of it's an incredible phrase, and let me repeat it because it's very important, not only for everyone, but especially for journalists. We must take sides. Neutrality helps the oppressor, never the victim. So in front of terror, in front of genocide, in front of dictators, in front of politicians abusing their power, we can't be neutral. So the worst in our profession is when we stay silent. Sadly, and we have to recognize that, we stayed silent before the war in Iraq, and thousands of American soldiers and tens of thousands of Iraqi civilians died unnecessarily. And we have to learn from that. Silence is the worst sin in journalism. But the best is when journalism becomes a way of doing justice and speaking truth to power. So that's exactly why tonight I want to dedicate this award to all the journalists who have been recently killed in Syria and in Mexico. You were our eyes, and now you are part of our soul. Thank you very much.